Pro wrestling has been ingrained in me for as long as I can remember. Pro wrestling was always the thing. Growing up, I always told people I'm going to be a pro wrestler. Could have a 5-hour podcast on the Derrick Jannetty stories. I think he got back into it because he's like, ooh, that heel Cintron. I want to work with that guy. I was just a kid that had a lot of potential in Utah. Who is Tyler Cintron? I was like, he's the James Bond of pro wrestling. He's like, what do you mean? I was like, I just always dreamed of that throwback of in the suit, dressed to the nines, looking the best, being the best. What do you think about being in the marketing department with Richard Holliday? And I was like, what do I think? I think that's awesome. First chaotic match was with Chase. Wow. Second was a 6-man against Chase and the Logan. Man, if this was 87, we would be on top working with Hogan. There's always the possibility that if it makes sense, we can lace him up one more time and go have some fun. I'll take full credit for it, and I'll tell him to his face.
Call it how I see it, straight talk, no disguise. So the slang dripping, got the truth in my eyes. Might like gavel, every word, lay it down. Coach C in the booth, turn the game all around, yeah. It's Coach C, he the best for business. It's Coach C, he the best for business. Yeah, I'm sharp as attack when I call the play-by-play. Every dog got his day, and I make the crowd stay. It's every week we go live on a Wednesday. Dressing so sharp, that's the reason why your friends stay. The youngest in the game to do it, best for business. Coach C is the truth, and everybody gonna witness. Love entertainment, you swear it's your destiny. Link with Coach C, we can talk about your legacy. It's Coach C, he the best for business. It's Coach C, he the best for business.
Hello and welcome to another edition of Best for Business. I'm pumped for this one. Tyler Cintron, thank you so much for joining me.
Yeah, you're welcome, man. I think you might be one of the few that's super pumped for this. No, I'm just kidding. No, super excited. Thank you for having me on. It's been a while since we've been able to talk as Tyler Cintron, so looking forward to this one, my friend.
I remember going to XWA Thursday Night Throwdown shows at 12 years old. So now I'm 20. The fact that we got to do this, thank you for everything. Because obviously after all these years, the impact you've had, I still remember it.
Well, and thank you for that, because I always kind of reflect what was the imprint, who remembers me on that front. But I think, and we'll get into it, a lot of that XWA fun that we had on those Thursday night throwdowns, and a lot of different folks that were able to connect with in the ring and the audience all the way through. It just led to lifelong friendships at the end of the day.
Yeah. So when you talk pro wrestling, I'm curious at the beginning, what was it about wrestling that made Tyler Cintron interested in wrestling at first?
Well, I mean, you mentioned, going to XWA when you were 12. I was 5 years old playing with Hasbro's. Pro wrestling has been ingrained in me for as long as I can remember. It's funny because I remember playing with Hasbro's, but Shawn Michaels was the one that just vaulted me in the next level. So the earliest memory was the barbershop incident, right? The kick throws Marty through the window, and just that swagger, that attitude that I had, and 5-6 years old at the time, it just stuck with me to this current day. It all kind of shaped from being a Shawn Michaels guy, and just I was always a fan. The only time I think I really kind of broke away, and I always look back and laugh at this, is when Shawn lost the WWF title to Stone Cold at WrestleMania 14.
Yeah.
Because I was just taught, everybody was Austin 316 and Stone Cold's the man at that time. And I'm like, no, Shawn Michaels is the man. He's not losing to Stone Cold at WrestleMania. He ain't doing that. There's no way that Stone Cold's going to beat Shawn. Well, he did. I faked sick the next day, so I didn't have to go to school and face the music. I will tell you the truth on that. And then he took all that time off, came back in 2002, but it's always been a true fandom from, age 5 all the way up. We're not going to say how old I am now, but to the current day, we'll say, but pro wrestling was always the thing. And growing up, I always told people, I'm going to be a pro wrestler. 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 And then I hit, I think it was the age of 21. It was right after WrestleMania 26 of all things, in my little Shawn Michaels brain. I was like, oh, well, Shawn retired. Well, that means I get to start now. So Shawn's handed the baton off to me. I'm going to go be the next Shawn Michaels. Was kind of how it all just was pen to paper. Let's go do it.
So I'm curious, you talk about loving pro wrestling, but how do you get involved? Because I remember talking to Derrick Jannetty. He even said there's one word to describe Utah's wrestling scene, and that was shady. So for you, how do you get involved?
So it's actually kind of funny how it all came to be like in Utah because you just research all of these schools, right?
Yeah.
And who went where, and obviously, like it's funny. We'll get to the New England Pro Wrestling Academy,
Mhm.
but that was always like the thought: I'm going to learn to be a pro wrestler there because that's where Triple H trained,
Yeah.
right? Back to the Kowalski days,
Wow.
and just Perry Saturn and everybody else. See, we could go down the list of guys that have come through the New England Pro Wrestling
Mhm.
Academy. So it was always the thought. But I was living with my dad at the time in Utah. I had to get out of northern Wisconsin. Obviously, not a lot of opportunity, but Salt Lake City, Utah had a little bit more opportunity
Yeah.
than northern Wisconsin. So I jumped on Google, right? Like pro wrestling schools, and UCW Zero popped up. So we start looking into it, and you see Tristan Gallo at the time. Yeah, he's from your girlfriend's bedroom. And I'm like,
Yeah.
oh, who is this guy? So it's actually kind of funny. Derek mentions the word shady. I always had a lot of fun with it. I
Mhm.
would say there probably is some shady tendencies to it looking back on it now. But at the time, I was just so happy to get in the ring.
Yeah.
So just that first initial call to Steve Slick, and he's like grilling me. He's like, "Wow, how tall are you?" I'm like, "Oh, 5'10". He's like, "Well, you fat or are you muscular?" I was like, "Well, I'm definitely not fat. I wouldn't say that I'm not jacked. Like, what
Yeah.
is going on?" So it was actually the transition between where they had a school at like a boxing school, I believe, or like a boxing gym, and they're opening up their own training facility. So I ended up, he had like this makeshift ring set up in his home. So I did my first few workouts, the basics, the rolls, like with Slick. My first interaction with Paco was super interesting because he just like showed up and didn't say anything.
Wow.
Like, he
Yeah.
just sat there and watched. So I think they were assessing like, is this guy athletic? Does he want it? Like, as opposed to because I've seen it all now. Like everybody's like, I want to be a wrestler, but they saw that I was an athlete. I wanted it. I actually took it seriously, and then the actual training facility opened up a week later, and then everything just kind of came together.
Wow. You mentioned one name. I've interviewed him. It's changed. Do you have any Derrick Jannetty stories that stick out?
Uh, geez, we could have a 5-hour
Yeah.
podcast on the Derrick Jannetty stories. I think the ones that always stand out was, from the beginning, because he was on a break when I started. He
Mhm.
wasn't officially like fully in the UCW mix. I think at that point in time, he bought a house, he had a really good career, so he's like, I'm really going to focus on this. But he's always a gym guy, and
Yeah.
some of us
Still
wrestling
is.
guys are, yeah, we're like, there's body guys. So he was still going to shows, and just the fact that I'll take full credit for it and I'll tell him to his face. I think he got back into it because he's like, ooh, that heel Cintron. I want to work with that guy. Working with that guy would be fun. So I think from the origin and the kickoff, I mean, just from there, it was like, okay, we're gym guys. We love wrestling. So I think the funnest times were not even in the ring. It was, hey, it's Thursday night. We're going to make chicken, rice, and broccoli, and we're going to watch SummerSlam '02 from start to finish and just break all this stuff down and
Mhm.
talk about it. I think that those were the funnest parts of Derek Jannetty and me spending time together.
You mentioned another name. What about Tristan Gallo?
We no, we don't want to talk about Tristan Gallo. We don't need to talk about Casaus. Um, no, I mean, when we talked about that Utah wrestling scene specifically at that time, I think that was like everything just pointed towards it. You saw me, and you're like, oh my god, that attitude and that like heel cocky, every girl wants me type
Yeah.
character. And then him being a babyface at the time, it just kind of like shotgun, like, oh, this is where it's going. This is the direction that everything is headed. And then, he gets the call from WWE Tough Enough and kind of derailed all that. I think that the fun one that pops into the brain at that time was, you know, we knew everything that was going on with him. We're not,
Yeah.
we'll kayfabe it a little bit. So we knew everything that was going on before it was on TV. So we knew he was going to be home a little bit sooner than people imagined. So the Saturday after it aired that he got injured, we did the lights out at the UCW arena, right? The warehouse.
Yeah.
And the Tough Enough music hit. So everybody just, up like,
Mhm.
hometown heroes back, like the guy on WWE TV that we saw from the start to here, like he's back, like we
Yeah.
can't wait. Lights out, lights come back on. It's me standing there with crutches in the Tristan Gallo gear. So I think that just kind of vaulted and catapulted it right into the next stratosphere as he, licked his wounds, so to speak, and got him back to full recovery so we could actually get in the ring together.
Wow. When you look at your career, I'm curious, where does the inspiration behind Tyler Cintron come in?
So there's a lot of HBK influence,
Okay.
and a lot of HBK, but the origin of Tyler Cintron is I'm 15 years old sitting in my mom's basement, right? Like, and that's when, you're a little bit younger, but there used to be like the e-feds. So we'd all go on these message boards and we type out our characters. Like, I think I had a Back in Black, like Randy Orton, like
Mhm.
Titantron entrance for Tyler Cintron at the time. So the origin came from Tyler Durden from Fight Club. So I always had this envisionment of like Paul and Tyler eventually like becoming some sort of character, like good and bad. And then never quite got there, but so I was always intrigued by Tyler Durden from Fight Club. And then I was just watching a random baseball game, right? Like,
Yeah.
I can't remember. I think he was playing for the Diamondbacks at the time. They're like, oh, base hit by Alex Cintron. And I was like, Tyler Cintron, Tyler Cintron, Tyler Cintron, Tyler Cintron,
Mhm.
Tyler Cintron. You can clap it, you can chant it. Like it just kind of rolled off the tongue as the wrestling name. So this wasn't like a powwow between me and like Derrick trying to come up with a
Yeah.
name. It's like, no, it was Tyler Cintron before I even stepped in a wrestling ring for the
Wow.
first time.
That's crazy because I remember even Martin and Derek says both Steve thought of both their names and just said this is what you're getting. So that's unique for
Yep.
you.
Yeah, like I walked into UCW, like, no, I'm Tyler Cintron, like tried and true. And then everybody in that school, and I think we should talk about Cassidy O'Brien and the influence that he had there
Yeah.
over me, Derek, and Martin specifically. But they just saw it and they're like, nope, this is Cintron. Like
Wow.
for whatever reason, they were like, he's going in this direction with this character, and I don't think we need to steer him off of what he's thinking. We just continue to guide and sharpen the tool set a little bit as we carry on.
Wow. When you look at the beginning, you've done a lot in pro wrestling, but what to you, what is Tyler Cintron's first big opportunity you'd say in wrestling?
I think the first big one, it's one of two things. I
Okay.
think the real big one on the mainstream of like what people would see, and we'll probably get to it, is championship wrestling from Hollywood.
Yeah.
I was just a kid that had a lot of potential in Utah. I obviously looked the part. I took it seriously. My buddy Dak Draper always tells the story. The first time he met me, he's like, "Oh, he was the first like true pro. He had like 7 sets of trunks. Like he was tan. Like he oiled up. He took it seriously. Like he looked like he wanted to be on TV." So I think that always paid dividends because when I got to California, it was, a lot of Southern California wrestling guys. And you had like your staples, like your Adam Pierces and Colt Cabanas coming
Mhm.
into NWA Championship Wrestling from Hollywood at the time. But it was almost like a perfect storm where it was like, oh, here's somebody new and fresh. Like he looks the part. He wants to be on
Yeah.
TV. Like, and away we went. That one was just a rocket ship to the moon all of a sudden.
Yeah. So you talk about how does championship wrestling from Hollywood start? Because I remember, I could be wrong. Back in the day, they wanted Martin Casaus, and that's how Derrick Jannetty got there. But for you, how do you go to championship wrestling?
Yeah, so those guys were there before. It's
Yeah.
kind of funny. I mentioned Cassidy O'Brien. He
Brian,
actually
yeah.
worked. Yeah, he actually worked Brian Danielson
Wow.
back in those NWA Championship Wrestling from Hollywood days. So there was a really good connection from like the UCW and Steve Slickpoint, like getting
Mhm.
his talent out there. But it was actually Michelle Morgan that pulled me aside at training and said, "Hey, like I have an opportunity for you. Like I'm going to put my name on you. I just want to make sure that you know that." Got me connected to Navajo Warrior, who again was like, I'm putting my name on you.
Yeah.
Like, just kind of like, you need to take this seriously. And at that time, hell yeah, let's
Mhm.
rock and roll at the end of the day. So, um, Nav got me the opportunity. We had a dark match with B Boy that was, 5 minutes.
Yeah.
Obvious, who can have a bad match with him
People,
at the end
yeah.
of the day? So it was okay. Like, yep, camera presence is there. He actually knows how to work a camera because Cassidy O'Brien taught me how to work a camera, not just a wrestling match. And then it was just on TV. And we're filming 4 or 5 episodes at
Yep.
a time. So one Sunday a month, those were pretty grueling days, but it just turned into, okay, I'm going to go over and we got a 5 minute segment, including entrances, including promos. So I'm going over in 3 minutes in these matches, like building me up. And I'm cutting promos about, Tyler Cintron special. His name belongs on the marquee, championship around his waist, Hollywood glitz and glamour. Like, boom,
Yeah.
done. So that's where it just kind of carried. And all of a sudden, like the TV presence is building. I'm on posters and I'm like, yo, here we are. And I'm sure you want to talk about some of the names that were on those posters back in
Yeah.
the day.
Yeah, to go with that, there's one match I want to ask you about right off the rip. You team with Timothy Thatcher against Brian Cage and Willie Mack. That match is nuts.
That match is nuts. And we will give Anthony Green a little bit of a pub
Nice.
here. This is his favorite match to rub in my face. Because he originally brought it up and he's like, hey, I was just researching it. And he brought up that tag match. He's like, how does it feel to be the only one that never did anything in wrestling? So he likes to take that nudge. But
Yeah.
at the same time, I take a lot of pride in that match. And, looking back on my career, like there was opportunities that I self-inflicted, like screwed up for myself. Because if you look at that match specifically, it was designed to put me over and make me a part of that talent level
Yeah.
that they had at that time.
Yeah.
They wanted to move me into a talent pool that wasn't the undercard guy coming up. It was now I'm in the upper card
Yeah.
with Willie Mack, with Brian Cage, with Timothy Thatcher, all of those guys at that time.
Yeah, and then you talk about it wrestling Willie Mack. I think you did a street fight, 2 out of 3 falls. Anything stands out wrestling Willie Mack?
Physical.
Yeah.
Physical.
Yeah.
But that's kind of what we talked about going in. Like we didn't at that point in time, I dressed up like Santa and like stole the championship from him. I think that street fight was 20 minutes long and it was 19 minutes of him just beating the bag out of me.
Yeah.
And I stole it from him at the end, like legit stole it from him. Brass nuts, boom. So it was, did I beat him? Like, no, I stole it from him. So it needed to be a little bit more aggressive from that side. That 2 out of 3 falls match was a lot of fun. Not going to name names, but there was an injury right before the match, so we had to fill a few extra TV minutes because it was recorded for TV at the end of the day. So if you had $1 for every time I went for a suplex in that match, you could retire right now, my friend. So I just kind of was like, how am I filling time? Oh, I'm going to go for a suplex, and it was an easy chance to talk and catch up. But I think that 2 out of 3 falls match, and with who Tyler Cintron and Willie Mack are, I think that 2 out of 3 falls match, the finish of it was actually gold. So, I steal the quick one right off the bat. So I'm up 1-0.
Yep.
Then we get into the wrestling match and he beats me, clean as day. And then we have, he's hooking for, his finish. I'm sliding off, going for my finish. We just go back and forth with that. And then eventually I just kick the ref right in the nuts and there's the DQ. So Willie Mack wins, but I keep the championship.
Wow.
So I think that us putting that match together was a lot of fun. But looking back on that one, like I at nauseum went for suplexes. So we try to bury that one away.
Is there any other championship wrestling from Hollywood moments that stick out to you?
I think a lot of the backstage stuff,
Nice.
Truthfully speaking, like peeking behind the curtain a little bit, getting advice from Adam Pearce after every single match was groundbreaking. Looking back on it now, I don't think I understood the magnitude of Adam Pearce giving me advice at that time. And what that actually meant, in the long grand scheme of things. But, just being able to sit backstage with Brian Cage and Sean Ricker, you know what I mean? Like, talk about iron sharpening iron. Like, I feel like I'm a very strong promo guy. I feel like I can take down a lot of folks in promos. There's a lot of folks better in the ring. Very few that are better on the mic. So just being able to, just cut promos backstage with Sean Ricker, who's, now LA Knight. Look at everything he's doing, right? So just looking back on that and how cool that was at the time and, just a lot of that self-reflection, just me not understanding the magnitude of what that locker room, those producers, those people who have sway actually thought of me and me really not adapting to that and understanding that and making the most of that opportunity.
You talk about Tyler Cintron on a mic. I'm curious, where did you build that confidence? Because as you know, in pro wrestling, not all people still don't even have it.
Well, that's a great question.
Yeah.
It's one of those where I just always talk the talk.
Wow.
Whether if it was high school sports, I was always talking, chirping. And it was always the concept of, I'm in a car, I'm cutting promos. You know what I mean? Like, I think that's actually benefited Paul in the real world because, as long as I've been in sales and just being able to talk, and when the pandemic switched, everything's on Zoom. I'm like, oh, I'm used to talking in front of a camera.
Yeah.
But it was one of those where it was just, I would study promos. You know what I mean? Like, people study wrestling matches, and it's just like, who always captivated the most? Like, who always drew me in when they talked? And it was always Jake Roberts and Roddy Piper. I think like the usual suspects. I watched a lot of Dusty Rhodes. But the tried and true ones were Ric Flair because you're just putting yourself over, you're over the top, and just being able to articulate and slow down is what I learned from Nick Bockwinkel
Nice.
watching those because it was just always like he would just talk down to you, but you wouldn't know that he's talking down to you, but he's just running you in the ground just by the way that he communicates. It wasn't with his words, it was with his cadence and his tonality. So that's where a lot of it came from was just studying. It was like, how do they do it? Like, how does it make you feel at the
Mhm.
end of the day when you're watching it? And how can I replicate that in conversation? And a lot of it came from watching villains in movies too. I think the one that I pulled the most from was actually Cal from Titanic because no matter who you are, like when you watch that movie, you don't like Cal. You don't like anything about that guy in
Yeah.
any capacity. He's just a rich snob, thinks everything's his, the girl's his, he's got all the money, like he's just, trying to get Jack out of the picture. So just some of those just deliverables in the way that he made you feel to not like him. I
Wow.
channeled all of those different things to slow cadences, how it makes you feel, and just tied it into those promos.
When I asked you about first big opportunities, you said there was one Championship Wrestling from Hollywood. What's the other one?
It's going to go back to the UCW Zero days.
Okay.
So we kind of talked about it, and I always look at like locker room presence. So
Okay.
at the time, it was UCW Zero. It was coming off of the Tough Enough thing. So Tough Enough was hot. So it was Luke Robinson and Martin Casaus were the headline of that UCW 10-year show. Eric Watts and AJ Kirsch opened it up.
Yeah.
So it was all this stuff, tough enough this, tough enough that. And I have a tremendous amount of respect for all those guys. I get along with all those guys. But I took it personally where it's like, I'm winning the UCW Zero Championship that night. I don't give a shit what those guys do. I'm going to send everybody home talking about me, is
Mhm.
what the objective was. And Cassidy was the heel champion at the time that was handing off the reins to me to be like, I'm up there with Casaus. I'm up there with Cassidy. I'm up there with Derrick. I'm up there with Paco. Well, we'll put Junior X maybe a rung below that just
Yeah.
because he might be listening to this and I got to take my little nudge there.
Yeah.
But that was the opportunity where it's like all of these WWE eyes are here. Like everybody's watching this because of WWE. How can I get Tyler Cintron to stand out on that front for everybody that left? And I'm sure my boy Denham, who was writing, I believe, for Body Slam magazine, I want to say at the time,
Mhm.
he attended that show. He lived in Idaho. He drove down for it because of the WWE stuff and was going to report on it. And I can't remember the blurb, and forgive me, but he talked about Tyler Cintron being the most like lookable. I looked like the most WWE guy
Mhm.
on the show was his interpretation of it. So
Wow.
that was taking that opportunity and really putting a feather in the cap and made me feel good about the performance because that's what I wanted everybody to go home talking about that night. Again, no disrespect to any of the Tough Enough guys.
Yeah.
It was just me seeing that, understanding that, and like, oh, here we go. We're going to get people talking about me when they all come to see everybody else.
Was there something about the performance that stood out about you that day?
I think it was the first true good baby face match that I had because I came in and everybody's like, Tyler Cintron's a heel. He's a heel. He's a heel. You are correct. Tyler Cintron is a heel, but
Yeah.
I needed Cassidy because if they were going to like me, they needed to find somebody that they hated more than me. And that's what Cassidy did. It was him and Slick. It was the evil faction. He got the championship back. It was just like really good chemistry on that front of I needed him as the heel to help
Yeah.
establish me as the baby face. And I sold my tail off for him that night. So that was the learning lesson of, oh, audiences get behind you once you sell more on the sympathy front because I was having the little hope, little hope spots, and I could just feel them get up. And obviously, I mean, that was a pretty large crowd that night because of
Yeah.
the Tough Enough influence. So it was like, oh, so this is how it's done. So then, I hit him with, I think I was using like an RKO for a finish at the time because, Randy Orton, yeah.
Yeah.
But I remember, him just telling me to go get all the fire. Like I'm pitting him. He said, "Thank you. Go get your fire." So just the celebration afterwards, like that 3 count, me popping up, like the baby face hurrah,
Yeah.
everybody's up. When the ref went to get me the championship, and I think this is really what solidified a lot of things for me. Cassidy took the belt. We didn't talk about this beforehand. Took the belt from the ref, and he decided to put it around my waist, patted me on the shoulder, and walked on out. So that went on a very personal level, knowing the influence that Cassidy had on me specifically and the time he took to work with me behind the scenes in the ring, giving me that nod on a night like that was very special.
Yeah.
And I know Cassidy O'Brien broadcasted, UCW Zero broadcasted across the landscape of wrestling. Might not, everybody might not understand, but to me, that one meant a lot.
Nice. You talk about originally when you first started, the New England Pro Wrestling Academy, you see where Triple H trained. That was mainly the goal. So how do you make the approach to finally go over there?
Oh, so I mean, the wild winds of Paul and Tyler Cintron being all over this country.
Yeah.
We had that stint in Vegas with the BFFs, and then the opportunity for the work life, the job that pays the bills,
Hmm.
brought me to Boston. So I was so focused on work at that time. You know, WWE was kind of, I felt like that ship sailed. So the goal was always WWE at that
Yeah.
point. So I was like, all right, let's focus on the career. We're in a completely new part of the country. I really don't know anybody.
Are you wrestling at the time at all or no?
I wasn't. So
Okay.
it's funny that UCW Zero called. They needed somebody to put the Deacon of Doom over at one of the anniversary shows. And I was like, yes, sign me up, please. So I needed a place to train and get ready for it. And, we all laugh at it now, but the New England Pro Wrestling Academy is like very prestigious and very, I don't want to say guarded, but you have to earn your keep in there. So I
Yeah.
walked in like, Tyler Cintron, former championship wrestling Hollywood TV champion, UCW Zero champ. Like, don't you know who I am?
Yeah.
Right. Like, so kind of busting their chops. They're like, you haven't done shit up here, and I understand it now that I've been in the New England scene. They're like, you haven't done shit. I don't give a crap what you did
Yeah.
before you walked in these doors. So Brian Fury did a good job humbling me. I mean, the best you can for me being humbled. But they started me out in the beginner's ring, and then I got to move to the, experienced ring, working with those guys. So I kind of had to earn my keep there, but it came to be because I needed a ring to get ready in, and I always knew like of the school. And I
Mhm.
was like, well, this is the best of the best. Like it started as let's just get a few workouts in, get this Utah show out of the way to there's some young kids that have a lot of potential here. I really like this scene because I'm not the best person in the room anymore.
Yeah.
So let's, that those guys kind of helped me get the itch going again.
So what is your first chaotic wrestling match? How does the opportunity to wrestle for chaotic happen?
So I'm sitting down with Chase, and Chaotic's very storyline driven. It's
Yeah.
just not an indie show that's like, hey, we're gonna put this guy against this guy. Like everything has to make sense. And
Mhm.
he looks at me, he's like, who is Tyler Cintron? And I think that not that there was friction, but it was almost like Chase Del Monte and Tyler Cintron are a lot of similarities at their
Yeah.
core. Loud, obnoxious, cocky, the whole 10 yards. Well, they already got that spot filled. They don't, you know what I mean? Like, and I'm not going to be better than Chase at any point in time.
Yeah.
Like, especially in the chaotic world, right? Like he's so
Mhm.
embedded. So he sat down and he's like, "Well, who is Tyler Cintron?" I'm like, he's the James Bond of pro wrestling. He's like, "What do you mean?" I was like, I just always dreamed of that throwback of Tully Blanchard, in the suit, dressed to the nines, looking the best, being the best." And then about a week later, he's like, "Hey, what do you think about being in the marketing department with Richard Holliday?" And I was like, "What do I think? I think that's awesome because I've always thought the world of Richard Holliday,
Yeah.
right? Like, how can you not, as a wrestling fan, the first time you see him, like, even what was that? Probably 8 years ago,
Yeah.
7, 8 years ago, even 7, 8 years ago, you saw it. So the marketing department came to be. All of a sudden, Elia's back in Wallbridge. So
Yeah.
we just kind of came together on that front just by the storyline perspective because Chase was working with Holiday to elevate him up the card. But at the same time, Holiday needed, the goons at the end of the day to, take the beating so he could get away scot-free. And it's funny because if you ever talk to Mortar, one of the first shots Mortar takes at me, he's like, "Man, you just got here and you're already getting to work with Chase." And he was kind of like butthurt about it. But you look at what
Yeah.
Mortar's doing now. I think it turned out okay for Mortar. But that was kind of like they're like, "Oh, your first match of Chaotic is with Chase," and it was like, well, Chase just needed a win against the marketing department as he does this thing with Holiday. So first Chaotic match was with Chase.
Wow.
Second was a six-man against Chase and the Logans. So
Wow.
it was like you're in Chaotic wrestling, buddy.
What was it like wrestling the Logans?
Physical,
Yeah.
like a good physical at the end of the day. That first match with Chase was kind of funny because I was a nervous wreck. I hadn't
Wow.
been like in the swing of things, and I'm like, this is chaotic wrestling. I haven't competed full time in like 4 years at that point. I'm out there with Chase Del Monte, and he's like, okay, after the match, like after I go over, like get my heat on me, and then the Logans are going to come out, but you got to get out of there because if they get their hands on you, they're going to beat the shit out of you.
Yeah.
So I'm like looking, I'm beating, and they come out with like a mop handle and like a chair, and I'm like, what? And I'm just
Yeah.
like in the crowd, going at those guys. But physical, super safe, overly professional, and another one of those like Derrick Jannetty categories where it's like those guys should have went somewhere with this because they were so good, so talented, true professionals that deserved every opportunity, but just never got one that, we've seen a few times in pro wrestling.
Yeah, I've said it to this day. I interviewed the Logans back in April, their first ever interview. That was like probably the best interview I've ever done. They've never did anything before.
I believe it. I bet you they got stories for days too.
I tell everyone a part two, but the Logan brothers, I'm already pushing them to the front. We're doing a part two down the line. But I'm curious for you when you talk New England. You go to Chaotic Wrestling. How does XWA come to be for you?
So XWA was doing a lot of Thursday night stuff, and it was truthfully like at first like I just got to get reps in a ring.
Yeah.
I don't care if it's in front of 30 people. I don't care if it's in front of 100 people. I just got to get reps. So at that time, the next wave of chaotic talent, this was behind Christian Casanova, Anthony Green, Josh Briggs. The next wave was Ricky Smokes, Brad Cashew, and Mortar.
Yeah.
Like that was like the next wave. So as I was going down there to get reps, Mike Antonucci was just like, why don't you want to bring the kids from Nepwa down? And once Chase gave the blessing, so it was like us in a car going down, and I think Chase realized that I'm doing this for my benefit, but also like want to help the kids out in the ring at the same time. And we call them kids, but they're all grown men now. At the time they were kids, right?
Yeah.
So it just came to be where I'm down there getting reps, having really good matches, with Riot, Trigga, like just that was one of those where Mike's like, all right, who do we got in the locker room? Like, who are we going to put you with? And I was like, thank God I'm working with Riot. And on some of those nights, you know what I mean? Another one that's fucking fantastic in the ring. So that came to be like, for me, just getting reps, Mike getting the connection to the New England Pro Wrestling Academy, which is super smart of him, right? Like get those kids reps, get them ready for a chaotic or wherever else they want to go beyond, yada, yada. And that just kind of formed everything from now I'm the Firebrand champion and I'm down there every Thursday and he's got me in really good matches against really good talent. And I'm like, what the heck happened here?
What matches stand out being Firebrand champion?
I mean, there's a few of them. I think, those matches with Kevin Blackwood and Anthony Henry are obviously the ones that jump out to everybody. Looking at cards, I think the Kevin Blackwood one, we were sandwiched in between. I can't remember who were two, but it was Riot and Trigga. One of them worked Penta, and the other one worked Ray Phoenix. And me and Kevin Blackwood were sandwiched in the middle of that. And I'm like, come on.
Yeah.
And like, how am I going to be able to outdo that? But we went in there just like, let's have a really quality wrestling match because we knew what those matches were going to be, right? And at that point in time, we didn't necessarily want to take anything away from Riot or Trigga because those guys deserve their flowers and everything in the world because one, they're good human beings. Two, they're fantastic professional wrestlers. So it was going out there and like, how can we stand out but not like overstep on anything? So it was a little bit different of what the UCW Zero opportunity looked like.
Yeah.
And the Anthony Henry one will always be like another like punch in the gut for me of being a bonehead. So I used to have the Batista belly button tattoo, right? So I got a laser treatment for it like a week before that. And, it heals in 4 or 5 days, like after those tattoo removals. Well, it wasn't. So I had like the Godsmack Sun like scab around my belly button. That's an open wound. So I couldn't really wrestle with my shirt off. So I had to like fully like bandage and tape. It looked like I broke my ribs, but I had to wrestle in a t-shirt. But he, another one that's just fantastic in the ring.
Yeah.
I think some of the funnest memories were not even as like a Firebrand Championship match, but when Ricky Smokes and Brad Cashew were starting to come into their own, Chase was like, no, I'm going to go down there. I'm going to show all of you how to work. Was his objective there. So it was just that crew. We got in a car, we headed down, and we had a banger of a tag team match. And when we talk about those XWA days, that by far is the one that stands out. One, because the match ruled, and two, it was the most fun.
Wow. The one thing I remember about Tyler Cintron being the XWA Firebrand champ, I think you're the first ever and the only ever to win the title and retain at Wresolution because every show started with the ladder match in the Firebrand title, and you retained that year, no?
I did retain that year. But you look at the lineup of folks in that match, talent-wise, there's 6 of us. I may have been number 6, and I'm okay admitting that just because the other 5 in that match were so good.
Yeah.
But it was fun because there was a lot there was a lot of confusion that day. Mike was very uncertain as to who was going to go over in that match. And I'm not one to jump off a ladder and do a moonsault or any of this crazy stuff, but TJ Crawford was there. So he was like, I'll do all that. I'm like, good, but goodbye, you, buddy. Like, you go
Yeah.
get all those crazy spots. And then we had two generals with Verna and Holliday,
Mhm.
right? Like you're looking at it on paper, like those are the two the betting favorites for the
Yeah.
match, right? If you're going to bet on somebody to walk out with that championship, it's going to be them. So I did, again, another 20-minute match. I did next to nothing. And it was always that TLC Ziggler finish. I think it was him, Swagger, and Kofi. It's Swagger and Kofi battling for the belt. They drop it. Ziggler scoops it and he's out.
Wow.
So Holliday just kind of like, this was like 10 minutes before the show. We're like, no, Cintron's going over. So Holliday's like, here's how it's going to go. Holliday put the whole thing together. So
Wow.
all the credit to him. So it was him and Verna up there, drops it, I scoop it, me and Rich Bass get the hell out of there.
Wow. What was it like working with Rich Bass?
Fantastic.
Yeah.
I love Rich. It's one of those where, you get, my mind shifted quite a bit on I don't want to say the love of pro wrestling, but I just approached it differently because I do love pro wrestling.
Yeah.
But it was a different view on competing as a pro wrestler, loving wrestling after I knew the WWE was never going to happen. So it was the opportunity to also connect with people that love pro wrestling, that, being able to be like the Mr. Perfect to his Bobby Heenan,
Yeah.
for those types of people, like meant a lot to him. Like working with Joey Eastman at, 01, it was like, man, if this was 87, like we would be on top working with Hogan. Like I can
Yeah.
guarantee you with the way that we work together. So it was being able to love pro wrestling, compete in pro wrestling, be, at that time and the way my brain works, being able to be like the Rick Rude or Mr. Perfect to a Bobby Heenan for those guys.
Talking about it is not sure. It was short lived, but had a lot of potential. What was it like working for 01 USA Northeast, and especially working with somebody like Sidney Bakabella?
Well, Anthony Green put those things together
Yeah.
flawlessly, right? Like
They
he
still
just
hold up those shows.
They do, and you just look at like everything organized and just playing to Tyler Cintron's strengths. He knew like, okay, he's not going to go out there and have a 15-minute indie banger. We got guys that'll go out there and do that,
Yeah.
but we need those goofy, get egg on your face heels, and there's nobody better than me and Bakabella. Like
Yeah.
I'll fight you tooth and nail on that one. I don't care. So that first one, against Nunzio is kind of fun how that one came together because me and Sidney, we didn't like pre-plan a lot. It was just like we kind of know each other. We know the shtick of I know how to work with a manager. He knows how to work with a heel. Like it's just a lot of eye communication. Like we were good, like step and step. But Nunzio, he's a legit shooter. Like he's got a strong amateur background. So planning that one out, he's like, oh yeah, we'll just like shoot around a little bit. I'm like, I can't shoot. Like I'm not a wrestler. Like I'm an entertainer. Like I just was like, so he's amateur wrestling me and he gets my shoulders down. I could hardly kick out and I had to powder. And I told Bakabella, I was like, yo, man, I can't shoot. I don't know what he's doing. He might just actually pin my shoulders to the ground for 3 here. So we had a fun little 5-minute match. And then even on that same show, being trusted to play the part of being those heels that get egg on their face, of being able to cut promos and get the audience just like, oh my God, these guys are insufferable. I just want somebody to shut them up, and giving that opportunity for Lanny Poffo and Danny Davis to be able to bump us around a little bit was quite a bit of fun at that first one.
So you do so much in New England, and then is it the pandemic when you start to go away? Do you do a little chaotic first?
Yeah, so me and Walbridge were going full steam ahead at Chaotic Wrestling after the marketing department dissolved. We did like the construction department.
Yeah.
We were elves for Christmas. We were, Valentine's Day stuff.
Was
So
that
we
your
were
idea? Or
yeah,
nice.
yeah, I'll take full credit for it because just talking to Chase, I was like, well, what do we do? I was like, well, the marketing department's no more. Maybe we're just like under construction department. So we got like construction hats, and then we did like Santa's little helpers because there was a tag gauntlet. So we just needed like whatever time of year it was, we just figured out something.
Yeah.
But the plan was to actually have me and Walbridge like continue down that path. And I was going to win the Chaotic Wrestling New England Championship.
Wow.
But then Elia was going to steal it from me. So we were going to be on a trajectory of babyface Cintron rocking through the summer of 2020 was the original plan on that front.
Wow.
But I always tell Chase, like you actually booking out Tyler Cintron winning a championship in Chaotic Wrestling is what caused a global pandemic.
So how is it the pandemic for you? Talk about Pro Wrestling Chaotic is one of those companies, though. They were thriving doing the Reloaded tapings. How was it for you?
Yeah, so I needed to take a step back, personal reasons.
Yeah.
Truthfully, I lost my job during the pandemic. So it was the first time since I was like 15 years old that I didn't have a steady form of income.
Yeah.
So it was really just more focused on what's next. I don't have health
And you're still in
insurance.
Boston, is it?
Yep. So I'm
Okay.
still in the Boston area, don't have health insurance. So it's like, do I need to be doing this at the end of the day? Right. Like it's just, I trusted everybody I was in the ring with, everybody on the chaotic roster, but things happen. I just didn't need to land on my neck wrong. Then all of a sudden, like, I got to go to the
Yeah.
hospital. I had the dog at the time, and that's obviously the number one thing to me. So I did need to take a step back. Obviously, they were doing the tapings. I didn't know what my future held is like, what am I doing next with my life? I might be in Boston. I'm looking at job opportunities all across the country. Like, I just need to find a job at the end of the day was my focus. So I really didn't want to take a spot up from somebody that was still up and coming, trying to make their name in pro wrestling. Because you look at Bear Bronson, TJ Crawford, Christian
Yeah.
Casanova, and like all of those guys, like that's where the focus needed to be on the future of Chaotic as opposed to me just taking up a spot because I wanted to take a spot. I had other stuff going on where I really wouldn't have been fully invested as I should have been at that time.
Yeah. And then in 2021, how was it wrestling for IZW in Arizona?
So it just goes back to the Navajo Warrior connection, right?
Wow.
So talk about me just being ready to move anywhere. So I did get a job, thankfully.
Yeah.
And then it brought me right back to Las Vegas, like
Wow.
literally overnight. So yeah, Boston, Vegas, like easy moves, right? So I'm out in Vegas and Greg DeMarco, the promoter out there, who's a fantastic human being, puts on great shows, was like, hey, we're having the first one back from the pandemic. Do you want to come out for it? And I was like, yeah, let's do that. So I got in there with Evan Daniels, who another fantastic talent, by the way. Like
Yeah.
he's one you should probably look at bringing on and having a chat with. Awesome human being, got a lot of good stuff going on for him. But we had like a good little 10-minute match to open up the show. And it was kind of a good nod because it was like a Navajo Warrior like talent showcase where it's like these guys always deliver in the ring. This is the first one we want you to see. So that was another like prideful moment that always associates itself with Nav.
For you, was there anything that stood out about wrestling in Arizona compared to New England or UCW?
And this isn't a knock on anybody, but the New England scene is the best in the country.
Yeah.
I legitimately have been everywhere. Not that, I'm trying to kiss anybody's ass because I don't care, but when you just look at like the talent, like just look at your television screen today. Like where did all these top dogs come from? You know what I mean? Like it's a lot of them came from one specific area of the country. And we just talked about like all of the crazy things that just happened. I'm thrown into Chaotic and I'm working with the Logans and Chase right off the bat. Look at the people that those guys have been in the ring with.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, again, we talked to XWA, Trigger, right? Those guys, XWA, the guys on the wall.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, there's just so much talent that comes through, and it's always iron sharpening iron up there, right? Like, it's not like UCW Zero, where no offense to anybody, I was on top within 6 to 8 months of my first training class, just because I worked out, I took it seriously, and I worked hard. So that would be the big difference. And there's so much more opportunity up there. Like there's just so many, like you could probably figure out a way to work every night of the week up there. You know what I mean? Like you'll have your Chaotic Fridays, like once every third week. So however the cadence goes, you always got Beyond, NCW, all these different indies running Lucky Pro, like every weekend. So there's just always an opportunity to continue to work and sharpen your skill set. I remember I did a 5-day loop up there where it was XWA Thursday, Chaotic Friday. Can't remember what I did Saturday, but it was 0-1 on Sunday. And I got back and I was like, I slept in my bed every single night and I'm exhausted.
Yeah. When you look at your career, you talk about going to Vegas, you have the job. How does the opportunity come in 2025 to wrestle Seabass?
So obviously I've stayed connected to everybody at Chaotic and the New England Pro Wrestling Academy, but I've always stayed in touch with Chase, just on the wrestling front, on the personal front, like just made friends with Brad and Ricky. So those are my boys, Mortar's my boy. Always kept in touch with those guys. So when Mortar was going on his New England Championship run, I'm living in Vegas and Chase just texted me. He's like, hey, do you want to put over Mortar in February? He's like, yes. So even then, like, that's when I cut down. Like, I was in the best shape of my life. I'm like, I don't know how much I got left, but I need to give Mortar like the full Tyler Cintron. So got completely shredded all the way through. That was 2022. Yeah. And then, my back went out. So I had to deal with back issues, because I'm not your age anymore, man. Like I'm a broken bag of bones. So the day job that pays the bills. Actually, I'm in Nashville now. I was living in the Northeast. So it was one of those where it's like, hey, I want to have one more for all of my friends up there. I don't know if it's a last hurrah, but just having one last match with somebody that I've seen come to the school from day one. Like I remember when Seabass came in day one to the
Nice.
school, took his
Yeah.
first bump. Not that I like had a hand in training, but I was there. You
Yeah,
know what
you
I mean?
witnessed
Like
it.
so,
Yeah.
it was such a cool thing to see him, like to see somebody from their first bump to be a prominent member of the chaotic roster. And it was almost a feather in my hat because I looked at it like, oh, it's a favor to me. And it was like, well, it's a favor to everybody because he's working Dijak at Cold
Yeah.
Fury. So his last match going into Cold Fury to look strong is against me. So it was like, perfect. That is exactly what I'll do is we'll get in there, make him look strong and like he belongs in a ring with Dijak. And I think we did that. Obviously, you know, I'm not 25 anymore, so I can't
Yeah.
work like I'm 25, but I think we got there. So that one actually did mean a lot to me. And even that mortar weekend in 2022, the the next night we had a brewery show where it was actually Seabass and Gall against me and Ricky Smokes.
Wow.
And it was one of those where it's like it's a chaotic show, so Chase is booking it. So it's just like, Chase, let Seabass go over on me. And
Mhm.
I didn't realize at the time that was the first time Seabass went over. So I was
Wow.
like, you've had to been thinking about it. Like, how do you want to do it? And he's like, no, I got like this roll through fisherman suplex. And I was like, all right, well, let's just rock and roll. So fun little connection there, and like very happy to jump in a ring with him and you know, put him over at the end of the day.
You talk about wrestling Seabass. I'm curious, is that going to be the last ever match Tyler Cintron has?
Well, that's been weighing on the mind quite a bit lately.
Yeah.
You know, you can even see the t-shirt that I'm wearing. We've been having
Wow.
quite a few conversations with the
Yeah.
Mile High Magnum Dak Draper lately. Our old friend Troy McClain from the BFF days in Las Vegas just did a podcast about wrestling. So I think everything's kind of pointing. And if I had to envision it, there's two things. I would
Mhm.
say one, there will always be in the back of my head Cintron versus Nemeth. I think that needs to find a way to
Yeah.
happen before I completely break down and call it good. But at the same time, I think me and Dak can have a lot of fun and we're open to travel anywhere. So maybe if you
Nice.
have tag team championships anywhere in this country, maybe Cintron and Dak Draper will be looking for him in 2026.
I was gonna say, I thought you were gonna say you were gonna get Derrick Jannetty out of retirement for one more.
You know, if he was like, "Hey, let's have one more in Utah,"
Yeah.
I'm game for it. I don't know if he wants to
Yeah, I don't
step out of
know.
retirement.
When you talk your career, I'm curious, is there a match that you'd say defines your career, one that sticks up right off the rip?
It's probably that tag team match from Championship Wrestling Hollywood with Timothy
Nice.
Thatcher, Brian
Yeah.
Cage, and Willie Mack is probably the one that jumps out. Um, you know, I'm always haunted by those matches with Casaus because like it should have been just flawless like storytelling. But I don't know what we were thinking at the time, but we just did so many things ass backwards in that little run that we had in that summer after he was healed from Tough Enough.
Yeah.
Like we had an ass backwards cage match where it was like it was like him trying to, or me trying to get out the whole time, him stopping. He ended up like walking through the door instead of just beating me. Like it was just a terrible cage match and like an end to the feud at the end of the day. So in the back of my head, it's like, well, maybe me and Martin can have one more to like rectify the, you know, the shit feud that we had back in the day. But when it comes to like standout matches, it's actually the Championship Wrestling from Hollywood match. And honestly, probably that XWA tag match with me and Chase against Ricky Smokes and Brad Cashew, just because the success that those two have had and the work that they put in to get their careers to the level that they're at, and just how much fun that match was at the end of the day.
Nice. When you look at Tyler Cintron's career, who are your biggest mentors when it comes to pro wrestling?
Oh, there was a few. So right
Yeah.
off the bat, you know, obviously Derrick.
Yeah.
On a very personal and professional level, but I can't speak highly enough of Cassidy O'Brien and the work that he put in with me very early on. He just saw a guy that wanted to work hard, listen, and had a lot of potential. You know, he taught me how to actually work as a babyface because all I knew was being a heel. Again, Sean Rude, Perfect Ziggler, like that's me. Like not a
Yeah.
lot of babyface. Well, Sean obviously is a babyface, but it was always that ingrained. So he taught me how to work as a babyface. He taught me how to work cameras. So just the time and effort that he put into me specifically right off the bat. Obviously, Navajo Warrior, and everything that he did, every door that he opened, I'll forever be like sad that I didn't make the most of those opportunities because at the end of the day, like he was right. I was the guy that had all the potential in the world. but I was my own worst enemy at
Yeah.
that time. Like there's no two ways around it. I can't hide or make any excuses. I was my own worst enemy at the time. And then, I hate giving him public praise, but Chase Del Monte and just the level of detail and just passion and love that he has for pro wrestling and puts into everybody that goes into the New England Pro Wrestling Academy, it's completely unmatched. Like
Yeah.
this is his. Like he loves it so much and he cares about it so much that it's not that he doesn't want the best for you. He wants to make sure that you are the best for like the world of pro wrestling at the
Yeah.
end of the day. And he's going to give you everything that he has. You just need to make sure that you are following that guidance. And at the end of the day, you look at what he's done. I was there when he took over the New England Pro Wrestling Academy, right?
Mhm.
Like even just this next wave, Ricky Smokes, Brad Cashew, Mortar, Becca, like I could go on and on about
Yeah.
all the talent that he is directly responsible for, not to mention like the people that he had a hand in before he fully took it over. So not that he was like the direct mentor because we got there later in my career, but
Yeah.
just like even the feedback that he had, like when I first met him, I was just looking for like his 2 cents because I'm like, oh, this guy gets it. Like I want his perspective on it. So I sent him like all those old Willie Mack matches, and he was sending me like, I
Oh
think it was
yeah, I heard
Twitter
about the Del
messages.
Monte text. Yeah.
Yeah, like it's just like boom, 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 and it's like appropriate feedback and just applying it. So, if there's any
Nice.
young aspiring pro wrestler out there, go to the New
Yeah.
England Pro Wrestling Academy and learn from Chase. Like you will get everything you got, everything he's got from a guy that truly loves pro wrestling, and even Max Smashmaster being up there too, like another guy that just fucking loves pro wrestling and
Yeah.
gives everything he's got to everybody that loves pro wrestling too. Like there's something magical about it, but you have to love pro wrestling in order to to get there at the end of the day.
And it's not just those two. You have Scotty Slade, Brian Logan,
Oh yeah.
Dijak AG. That crew is stacked
Yeah.
over there.
But yeah, and you look at like even just those names and the things that they've done, right?
Mhm.
Like it's crazy just the amount of resources that you have that want you to succeed, but you have to want to succeed in order to, digest everything that all of those names are giving.
Yeah. Well, I'm curious going into the new year. Do you have any goals? Or are we going to see you back in the ring? What are you up to nowadays?
I'm just working the day job, paying the
Yeah.
bills.
Yeah.
I am on the road quite a bit for the job that pays the bills, which is a good thing. But there's I don't want to say haunting, but there's always been that like Ziggler Cintron comparison, which I appreciate.
Yeah.
Everybody that's ever brought it my
Yeah.
way, like some of those XWA fans, are like you're a rip off Ziggler, and it's like that's actually a compliment. You're not getting under my skin with that one.
Yeah.
So there's been a few conversations where it didn't almost happen, but it was talked about happening. That's one that I would definitely gear back up for. But I think, there's a lot of fun to be had. There's a lot of new young kids that I've seen like come up. Chaotic Wrestling's got new tag team champions. Me and Dak Draper have been talking. When you look at my time out west, because Dak lives in Denver, Matt Yaden, who runs Rocky Mountain
I just interviewed him
Pro.
yesterday.
Yeah, he's the man too.
Yeah.
His tag team partner is Martin Casaus. So there's a lot of easy like
Yeah.
stories to be told and matches to be had. So not that we're going to get back to it full time, but there's always the possibility that if it makes sense, we can lace them up one more time and go have some fun.
Nice. Well, Tyler, I can't thank you enough for doing this. However, every interview I've done has ended the same now. The day you decide it's all done, which isn't happening anytime soon, but the day you decide it's all done in wrestling, what do you want Tyler Cintron's legacy in pro wrestling to be?
I want it to be a learning lesson to not be your own worst enemy, because I will say that I did have all the potential in the world, and I was the one that blew that up. There was the only reason that I am not in the WWE or didn't get a fair shake with the WWE because of my attitude and just lack of understanding my surroundings and the support that I had. So if anything, I think that should be my legacy, is to pay it forward to somebody that does have all the potential in the world, does have that chip on their shoulder, to shut up and listen to those around you because they're trying to help you, and not let your own attitude and ego block you from getting to where you belong.
Nice. Well, Tyler, I can't thank you enough. I remember out of the blue sending you a text. I was telling Trigger the OG, I was like, I don't know if he'll do it. And then when you texted me, I was pumped. So thank you so much.
No, thank you for having me on. It was nice to actually open up memory lane a little
Yeah.
bit and, just chat some things through, because it's funny. I always just wonder, like, when it's all said and done, like what impact does Tyler Cintron have? So it makes me feel good when like people like you outreach
Yeah.
to me with hey, you want to chat about Cintron? Absolutely. And then, just you mentioned Trigger, mentioned Derrick, like just coast to coast, all of these names. So I thank you for the opportunity for me to hop on and chat about the life and times of Tyler Cintron, we could say.
Absolutely. Like I said at the beginning, I was watching you at 12 years old. The fact all these years later we still made it happen. Thank you so much for everything you've done for me.
Yeah, you're welcome, man. It's always good to hear that, like as you get in the later stages of a wrestling career, knowing that you had impacted or positive impacts on
Yeah.
people.
Thank you for doing this, and thank everybody for watching this episode. This was Best for Business.
Thank you for watching this episode of Best for Business. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. Until next time, because this is Best for Business.